All right, so I finally had the opportunity to check out former WWE diva Kaitlyn, aka Celeste Bonin, her shoot interview that she had conducted with RF Video. And I gotta say, for those of you that have been looking for me to review this for quite some time, you may be a little bit shocked with some of the things that I have to say with regards to this DVD, especially as far as if this is one that you should definitely check out. Let me just first set up key points and what was covered on this DVD. Now, one thing that jumped out at me off the break is the fact that Kaitlyn, she's always been involved in some type of physical sport activity. For the most part, about 15 years, she had did soccer, and she was doing it pretty damn good as it got her to the point where she had a scholarship, but there was a lot of personal stuff that was happening at home, and she decided to pass up on that, and instead she had put all her strength and energy into fitness, bodybuilding, and as you all know, she had a very good career out of that. She participated in a number of bodybuilding tournaments, most notable the Arnold Classic, where she had came in 5th place. And eventually she had talked about what had led her into getting hooked up with the WWE, as it was basically through a friend of an associate who had contacts from back when he was trying to get into the WWE. And basically she went I think she went down to Florida, and she had a tryout match or whatever, took a few bumps here and there, and they were pretty impressed with her. They decided to offer her a WWE developmental contract. They didn't promise her anything. They just said, look, you could be down here for a couple of months, you could be down here for 6 months, you could be down here for a year, maybe 2 years, but they didn't really promise her anything. But they invited her to come on down there, get her training in there. And at that point, she had always been living in Houston, Texas. And here she is, a young adult, moving from Houston, Texas to Florida alone. Not really sure what to expect, but that's pretty much how the journey of her wrestling career had began. 2 weeks after she went and performed in front of key folks associated with WWE, she moved on down to Florida, and some of the people that had a hand in training her was Norman Smiley, Dr. Tom Pritchard. Billy Kidman was kind of there in between, but it was really on Norman Smiley and Dr. Tom Pritchard. Something noteworthy, I thought, was when Kaitlyn had brought up her participation in the 3rd season of NXT. Now, for some of you, you all may recall this, but according to the way she's telling the story here, Kaitlyn that is, it appears as though her participation in this season of NXT came as a shock to her and many others, as for those of you that watched it, you all may recall that originally it was looking as though Lindsay Hayward, aka Elysia, was the one that was probably going to be winning the whole thing. You guys remember her? She was blonde. She was about maybe 7 foot tall, big Amazon of a woman. She was dropped from WWE NXT due to some erotic pictures that had emerged, which officials from WWE had uncovered. They pretty much had no choice but to give her the axe, and pretty much Kaitlyn just got catapulted right into that season of NXT. And keep in mind, she had only been down in developmental for just a few months, and here she was already skyrocketing to that 3rd season of NXT, and she didn't have any wrestling gear, not even basic gear. And luckily, John Laurinaitis, he basically gave her $1,000, and he was like, look, go get yourself some clothes, get your nails done. And he actually had some boots made for her overnight. Normally it would take weeks, maybe a couple of months, but he was able to pull some strings and get some boots sent to her. And it was these pair of boots, apparently it had such great sentimental value to her that she decided to push them all the way up until the end of her tenure with the WWE. Of course, after she won WWE NXT, about a month or two later, she went up the main WWE roster. And there was definitely, as far as she was concerned, just a little bit of resentment from the other girls down in NXT, FCW, because here she was not really there that long. didn't really have a character or anything, and she was just being skyrocketed to the top. She admitted that she probably would have had a little bit of resentment as well, because to these other girls that she was training with, a lot of them, they were in a position where they had been training for a few years. They had been working on the indie circuit, getting their character down and all that, but she didn't really let it get the best of her. She also had talked about Vicky Guerrero being a huge influence on her during her uprising to the main WWE roster back from her NXT days, keeping her in line, letting her know what to do and what not to do, basically making sure that she stays neutral and just does everything peacefully, does everything as professionally as possible without rubbing people the wrong way. She went at great length about her relationship with AJ Lee, how they all had pretty much came together at FCW. She told a really hilarious story about how all the girls were in this little small locker room in FCW, and they were getting ready to film FCW TV when the lights had went out. And Kaitlyn had told this really silly joke, and like AJ Lee was the only one that laughed at it. And from that moment forward, she knew that the two of them would be best friends. And it's just something that she's just really been appreciating to this very day, long after she's rolled out from the WWE. She talked about the difficulties of traveling on the road, as it can just really throw off your metabolism. You know, she said for the longest time, and she said other WWE divas, they would laugh at her, but for the longest time when she would be going on the road 4, 5, 6 days a week, she would pack all her meals in a cooler, because there's just that part of her that's just so used to making her own meals, having everything be prepared. You know, that's that whole bodybuilding mentality that she has going on. And they used to laugh at her, but for the longest time, for a good series of months, that's what she would do, because it would be so hard for her to find the right type of food to eat, making sure she gets all her nutrients and whatnot. And she had gave some impressions on Alicia Fox, the Bellas, basically talking about how she kind of enjoyed working with them. You know, we're talking about metabolism and all that, looks and all that. I want to stay on that for just a little bit, as word had got to her through Vince McMahon that he liked her face, but he didn't like her body and wanted her to lose weight. As you know, Vince McMahon, he likes those skinny girls, and this is definitely something that Kaitlyn had confirmed. Vince McMahon loves pretty faces, skinny bodies. Triple H, on the other hand, he has that whole bodybuilding background. He understood exactly where Kaitlyn was coming from, and he told her, he said, look, don't change who you are. Yeah, maybe, lose about maybe 10 pounds, but really, you shouldn't change your look up dramatically like that. Stay true to yourself. So, it's kind of nice to hear that Triple H had her back. Of course, Kaitlyn, she kept experiencing health problems. I don't know if you guys recall, but there was a series there on main WWE programming where it was looking as though she was kind of picking up more and more weight. And it actually turned out she was having thyroid problems. And she talked about how Triple H, Vince, Steph, a few others, they were very kind to her, making sure that she had got the best treatment, best doctor, evaluations, all that. And they were very nice to her about it and making sure that she had everything she needed to get back to 100%. She gave Fit Finlay a lot of praise for handling the booking of the WWE Divas, because as far as she was concerned, Fit had this connection with the divas. He knew how to utilize them at their absolute best. He knew exactly how to capitalize on their strengths. She didn't really say too much about Build the Mod. I was kind of getting the impression that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And Rob had actually brought up how he's been hearing a lot of negative things about Build the Mod as a trainer. You've had a few people that have gone over to do a good job in putting him over, but that there were some people who just kind of felt as though he was a bad trainer. And the only thing Kaitlyn would say is that when Fit Finlay had left, they were hurting. The Divas there, they were hurting. But when he came back, they were just in euphoria over him. And she actually pointed out how one of his first matches that he had booked when he came back, it had involved her in a 6 Diva tag match. And just the way that it was booked, which had saw her pick up a victory via pin for her team, only Fit knows how to do smart booking like that and basically utilize her in a way that really makes her come off looking strong. She gave him a lot of props for that. There was talk about NXT Redemption. As I'm sure many of you guys remember, there was a period there where Kaitlyn had left TV and she was actually helping out in NXT for their Redemption series for a little bit. She said she liked it a lot. She liked in particular working with Derek Bateman, who, as you all know now, as TNA Wrestling's Ethan Carter III. And she told a funny story about how she was working on some promos with him and how he did a hell of a job in being a good sport and helping her get the promos over and everything. One thing that I thought was very interesting was, you guys remember the whole Eve Torres trying to jockey herself to be in a position where she was going to be the SmackDown GM? Well, it turned out there was like a SmackDown event that was going to be coming up in Houston where basically Booker T was going to be trying to figure out who was going to be his assistant. And Kaitlyn had actually pitched to WWE, hey, look, I'm from Houston, Texas. Booker's from Houston, Texas. I say, why not go on ahead and let me be his assistant? You know, maybe you can have me and Eve kind of be going at it. We could be trying to fight for that position and all that. And the writers had loved it. And eventually, word had got to Vince McMahon about it. And he was on board for the idea. When it came to that SmackDown taping, she was doing some promotional work. She was actually dressed up as Ultimate Warrior, doing some really cool stuff. And she was on her way to the SmackDown tapings, very pumped up that she was going to be beginning this new phase of her life in front of the cameras, working with Booker T and all that. And she had found out the hard way that Vince decided to switch things up and that they were going to go with Eve Torres instead. She didn't have anything personal against Eve. She understood the way things had went down, but she just thought it was really messed up because, after all, this was in Houston, Texas, her home turf. Would have been a really nice homecoming for her. But then who would have thought that weeks and weeks later, there would be a number one contender match to face Layla for the Divas Championship. And you had like a battle royal match that was going on. And what originally was supposed to happen was Eve was supposed to win. It was supposed to be down to her and Kaitlyn. And remember, that was a match that Brad Maddox was refereeing. And it was like one of the first matches that he ever did for WWE Raw. And basically there was a botched spot that had went down. I'm sure you guys may remember this now because Kaitlyn, she was outside the ring. She was like on the apron. She slipped and fell or something like that. And basically Eve unintentionally eliminated herself. And if you all recall, there was like a shocked look on Brad Maddox and Kaitlyn's face. They weren't really sure what to do. And I'm sure for those of you that remember it, you were probably watching at home wondering, did we just see like a botched spot? Yeah, you did see a botched spot because Eve was supposed to win it. And they were actually trying to figure out for a few weeks there how to make Kaitlyn lose her number one contender spot. But they went on ahead and they kept it and everything. They just kept it going because Kaitlyn tried to do everything she could to continue to be in that spotlight. She also had offered fond memories of facing Eve Torres, especially with regards to winning the Divas Championship from Eve, knowing that Eve was on her way out. As far as she was concerned, she really had enjoyed working with Eve, really put Eve over, saying she was a great athlete, a great representative for the Divas division and all. From there was talk about the whole AJ, Big E, Langston, secret admirer angle and how the three of them were friends in real life and how they had toured and everything. And originally, they didn't know where the secret admirer angle was going. They didn't even know that Big E Langston was going to be the guy to be revealed as Kaitlyn's admirer. Not really until like that respected episode of Raw was when things were revealed. Or actually, let me back up a second. It was actually a couple of weeks before we would see things play out the way that it did on Raw, that they all had find out that Big E Langston was going to be the admirer, and AJ and Kaitlyn, they were picking on Big E about it. They kept telling him, oh, you're going to have to kiss Kaitlyn, and he was really nervous about that, but as y'all had saw the kiss, it never did come about. Total Divas, I thought that was very interesting, as pretty much after Kaitlyn had dropped the title to AJ and all that, WWE, they kind of had this mentality, or at least this is how they came off. It was like, okay, well, you did your part. We're now doing the whole Total Divas thing. Rest up for a little bit. We'll definitely bring it back on TV in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. And it turns out WWE, they never invited her to be part of Total Divas. She actually did not find out about Total Divas until that respected WrestleMania weekend when they were filming footage for Total Divas. And it came as a shock to her. Question was asked if she watches Total Divas. She quickly, and had a nice chuckle at it, said no, she doesn't watch Total Divas. So I'm not really sure if she might be just a little bit offended that she didn't get invited to be part of Total Divas, but take that for what it's worth. Ultimately, as far as what led to her WWE departure, and this is really the meat and potatoes, because she didn't give any interviews as far as I know, as far as like XM radio, podcasts, all that other stuff. She never did an interview talking about why she had left the WWE, what really had set things in motion. Basically, it was frustrations of being on the back burner. She had two successful companies with her husband that was going on, PJ Braun, and PJ was doing a good job with his respected companies that cater towards fitness, nutrition, and all that, and she had always talked to him about opening up her own clothing line and looking into some other avenues when she retired and everything. And she was just starting to have a lot of free time on her hands. And at this point, they had got engaged, as they had been going out for a series of months, but they had been friends for a couple of years. With all this free time that she was having, pretty much after she dropped the Divas Championship to AJ Lee and everything, and she just started to get ice cold on main WWE programming, she started looking into those endeavors, and eventually she just decided to tell WWE, hey, look, I'm done. I just want to move on. And they told her to sleep on it, think about it, as she first had broke the news to them at a Raw event in Baltimore. She waited until the show was over to tell them. It was an old school Raw edition. And she still was adamant the next day when it came to the SmackDown tapings, and they went on ahead and they granted her release, and she's pretty much been done with wrestling ever since. Now, she would say that as far as returning to wrestling, she doesn't think that she will. Question was brought up of TNA wrestling. She says she doesn't check out that product, and basically if she were to return to wrestling in some shape or form, it definitely wouldn't be the independent circuits. It would definitely be the WWE. She really left on good terms with everybody. And so, way it looks right now, her heart is just set out for looking into things outside of wrestling. And honestly, it sounds like she's got a lot of good things that's going on with these side businesses that's going to be launching very, very shortly, pretty much right around the time of WrestleMania 30 weekend. So good way to kick things off, honestly. Overall, with regards to this DVD, I felt that this is a DVD where if you are a hardcore WWE Diva fan, you will appreciate this 3+ hour DVD shoot interview. If you are a fan of Total Divas, or guys, if your girlfriends are mega fans of Total Divas, this is a DVD I would definitely say check out. Grab it for your girls. Let them check it out. They will definitely really enjoy this. For you hardcore shoot interview DVD collectors, I'm being straight up with you guys, and this definitely is not a knock to RF Video, and it's definitely not a knock to Kaitlyn. But for you hardcore shoot interview collectors that's out there, you may find this shoot interview DVD to be very boring. you may find yourself asking yourselves, okay, well, Kaitlyn is cute and all, but where's the meat and potatoes? You're not really going to find any meat and potatoes here. You're not going to find her burying anybody or revealing some very taboo type of stuff. Basically, the way Kaitlyn is coming off during this shoot interview, it's just, hey, I had a great rise. I had a great opportunity to perform. I had a great opportunity to work with a company and basically say, hey, I was a WWE superstar. I was a WWE diva. She's just been very humble about the whole experience, but at the same time, she also feels that she was just really starting to scratch the surface with that Kaitlyn character and really building upon personality, and that there's a lot more work left to accomplish with that character. Whether or not we will ever see her get in the ring again and try to take that character to even better heights remains to be seen. But for you all that's looking for some nice juicy stuff, you're not going to find that here in this shoot interview. So this may be one that you all want to pass. But then again, I can't stress it enough, for those of you hardcore WWE Diva fans, especially those of you Kaitlyn fans, you'll like this. Fans of Total Divas, you'll definitely like this. Special shout out to the guys once again. If you have a girlfriend that's into Total Divas, they will definitely enjoy this, no problem. And I must say, Kaitlyn is just very stunning during this. I actually had got this on Blu-ray, and she just, my God, the camera looks so good on her. You know, I've said it time and time again, ever since I have found out when Kaitlyn was released by the WWE. It's just a missed opportunity by WWE, because here was a woman that had the look of like a Beth Phoenix and a Chyna, but she also had that great fitness background like a Jillian Michaels of The Biggest Loser. And I just think that WWE really dropped the ball in utilizing her properly. There was such great marketability with her if they just would have used her at her absolute greatest strengths. And it's kind of sad that WWE just put all the attention in other areas, but I'm hoping nothing but for great success for Kaitlyn. As I said, she's going into this whole fitness nutrition company with her fiance, and then she's got the clothing line that's going to be coming about. This girl's definitely on to some very good things, and I'm definitely going to continue to watch her career very closely, whether she's dipping into some non-wrestling related projects or not. I'm definitely going to be continuing to follow her. I've always been a fan of her work since her days in NXT, right on up till she came up the main WWE roster. But for this RF video, I would definitely have to give this a overall rating of a 7.5 out of 10. I say, you know, definitely pick it up if you're into the divas, and you know, she's got some really great stories to tell. She's definitely a talker, I will tell you that. A lot of good stories here. What did you guys think of this shoot interview? For those of you that checked it out, let me know. Post your comments below. We'll definitely follow up on what you all have to say on a future episode of the RCWR show. How'd you enjoy this review? Post your comments below. Let us know. Hey, do you have a shoot interview that you would maybe like for me to check out and review? Is there maybe one that you're on the fence about? Maybe you want me to check it out, give you my honest take on it. Is it something maybe you should buy or pass? Well, go on ahead, post a comment down below, let me know, and I'll definitely do my best to try to put it on the list of shoot DVDs to check out. Hey, is this your first time checking us out? I'd love to have you subscribe to us so that you never miss out on all the great content that we upload here on our channel on a weekly basis, whether it comes to interviews, reviews, or some stuff in between. We got a little bit of something for everybody, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. And hey, share this video. You can do it a number of ways. You can retweet it, you can Facebook it, you can Google Plus it. One of the many ways you can spread the good word about our content. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for checking out this shoot DVD review for WWE. Kaitlyn, until I hear from you guys next go round, be safe and be kind to one another. Everybody, take care.